What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the spot where we kick back and react to all kind of different things. All right, so what we got going on today? We're back with Kyle Hill with some more science. This video is called Atomic Hearts, World-Changing Technology Explained. All right, so excited to get into this one, right? So am I. Learn new stuff. I have no idea what an atomic heart is, but we're about to find out. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yep.
Imagine an alternative past where this technology, fusion, became reality. A past where science and innovation created a robot-enabled utopia, free from menial labor and filled with the pursuit of knowledge and, beauty. This never seems to play out too well in the video games that envision it, but it is fun to think about how grand advances in technology could change all of our lives. So, what is cold fusion? And how would it change everything?
Oh,
Now entering the facility.
let's see. That shows. I've heard the cold fusion bounced around so much, but I've never looked into it myself, so I have no idea. No clue on what cold fusion is really about, but I guess I'm about to learn, right? Learn with me. Let's go.
The alternative past of Atomic Heart begins with this weird stuff. Polymer, a plastic electric storage device. Now, I'm not exactly sure what this stuff would really be in life, but it has to do with silicon and heavy water, a fusion fuel. Now, it's polymer that then allows fictional Soviet scientists to take arguably the game's biggest technological leap, creating cold fusion. And you know what? This cold fusion bringing about the glorious robot revolution in-game makes sense.
Wait, you haven't been talking to those robot twins, have you?
No. I haven't been, no one's even noticed those characters. Fusion is the holy grail of power production. The main reason is simple. Outside of antimatter annihilation, fusion is the most energy-dense process there is, thanks to direct mass-to-energy conversion. For example, a single kilogram of fusion fuel would release the same energy as 10 million kilograms of coal. And fusion fuel, heavy water or hydrogen with extra neutrons, is found naturally in seawater, meaning that there's more or less an unlimited supply of it. Fusion is also clean. It doesn't produce any greenhouse gases or significant nuclear waste. And yeah, no. Not having like a face doesn't really matter to me. I think the whole chrome look is actually kind of hot. Hot fusion is what everyone normally means when they talk about fusion. Nuclear forces at nuclear scales are so unimaginably strong that it normally takes star-like conditions to force even light nuclei like hydrogen and helium together into a different element. But this is not the kind of fusion that Soviet scientists in Atomic Heart are talking about. No, they're talking about fusion without star-like temperatures. In fact, fusion at the temperature you're at right now, room temperature. Now, if that sounds unbelievable, you're not alone, because it turns out experiments with cold fusion are some of the most infamous experiments in the history of science.
Why are these AI liking all your Instagram posts now?
I don't know, Aria, maybe they just think I'm a cool guy. I can't control what they do with their shiny hands. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. I'm award-winning science educator and
Kyle.
Thor, if you squint, Kyle Hill. You know, you get an unlimited number of devices on just one account. While you're surfing, protect your turf. Surfshark. All the way back in the 1920s, scientists Frederick Paneth and Kurt Peters discovered that the element palladium could absorb hydrogen. Specifically, powdered palladium could absorb a lot of hydrogen gas, 900 times its own volume, which would put this hydrogen at thousands of times atmospheric pressure. Because of this chemical fact, Paneth and Peters believed that by simply loading palladium rods with enough hydrogen in the form of deuterium, the pressures alone could cause fusion at room temperature, cold fusion. When they detected the fusion product helium in their experiments, they were apparently successful. However, Paneth and Peters later retracted their claims when they realized that they were measuring background helium in the air and not from nuclear catalysis. A few years after Paneth and Peters, Swedish scientist John Tanberg used the experimental setup you see now, electrolysis of heavy water with palladium electrodes, to try and get electricity to force even more deuterium into the metal, thereby increasing the pressures and increasing the likelihood of fusion. In 1927, Tanberg reported he successfully fused hydrogen into helium and applied for a patent. He couldn't explain why the fusion occurred, he just claimed that it did. His application was denied.
Yeah.
Cold fusion.
Come on now, you can't try to put a patent out and be like, how'd you do it? I don't know. It's like, no, that's automatic denial. The fact that you couldn't explain it, it's like, why'd you even try for the patent in the first place? Come on now.
Would then stay cold for another 60 years. Even though there has never been an accepted theoretical model for how nuclear fusion could occur at room temperature, in the March of 1989, two men would spend an enormous amount of time, prestige, and money in making their names synonymous with failure.
You know they don't actually exist, right?
Yeah, I know they're not real. I was just inspecting the hardware and seeing if it was shaped correct. What do you want me to say? If you've ever taken a science class, there's a good chance you recognize these names, Pons and Fleischmann. And that's because in 1989, the two electrochemists pictured here announced to the world that they had generated excess heat and energy from an electrolysis palladium heavy water experiment, that they had achieved cold fusion. And not with some fancy reactor at the temperature of a sun that costs $1 billion. No, simply with what you see them holding right there. The power of the sun in the palm of their hand. Allegedly. Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons made international headlines in 1989 with this device, a reimagining of the original electrolysis apparatus proposed 60 years prior. It too used a power source, heavy water, and palladium electrodes. During experiments, the duo would run this apparatus for weeks at a time, using a calorimeter to measure heat and replacing the deuterium fuel every so often. Suddenly, and without apparent explanation, the heat coming from the device would almost double. This was unexplainable, Pons and Fleischmann would claim, if nuclear processes weren't involved. The duo also publicly claimed that they measured tritium in the water and neutrons leaking from the device, similarly pointing towards nuclear reactions. If these claims were true, it is undeniable that these two men would have instantly changed the entire world. Free, unlimited energy for everyone, forever, and in a device that could fit into basically anything, this could plausibly, in fact easily, bring about an alternate history, like you see in Atomic Heart. A similar thing happened with miniaturized hot fusion in the Fallout universe. However, the problem is, science doesn't take anything at face value, not without proof. That's how it's constructed. And for Pons and Fleischmann, the presentation of their proof was the problem. Just don't pay attention. Just don't pay attention. You don't have to answer. Just.
Hilarious.
The instant Pons and Fleischmann made their announcement in March 1989, the whole scientific community was skeptical. Remember, there was no theoretical basis for any of this to work, and so any world-changing technology had to have substantial experimental replication behind it. Problem was, Pons and Fleischmann didn't initially publish how they actually did their experiment, and when they did, other scientists found that the reported excess heat was 1 degree Celsius, not 20, and this could be explained by experimental error alone. And when physicists started digging into Pons and Fleischmann's data, they found that those neutrons that indicated nuclear processes and fusion, well, that was just a wrong measurement. There were no neutrons. In the weeks after their announcement, almost every single scientist looking into this failed to replicate Pons and Fleischmann's initial experiment.
That's
and
not
it should
good.
tell you just how wrong these two men turned out to be when just a month.
Wait, hold up. How two obscure chemists stirred excitement and outrage in the scientific world. Woo, man. That's a rough headline to have your face attached to. Oh, I feel sorry for them. Oh, but they should have made sure that they had all their ducks in a row. And that, I was like, you feel sorry for them, but at the same time, you kind of don't. You kind of don't, because if you're going to make that huge of a claim, knowing the science world, you should have made sure, absolutely sure, that you could replicate the experiment multiple times and that anyone else doing it could replicate the same thing. So, yeah, it's like, man, looking at that photo, unflattering, and that headline makes you feel like, yeah, I kind of feel sorry for you, but realizing that, yeah, you guys should have known better. At the same time, you kind of don't,
After their announcement, even the mainstream media declared cold fusion dead. These two men would have changed the world, and it would have been amazing.
If they were right.
But as legendary physicist Richard Feynman once said, and every scientist should remember,
if it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are, who made the guess, or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Pons and Fleischmann never officially retracted their claims and instead moved their research efforts overseas after they were dismissed in the United States. Today, cold fusion is a term synonymous with scientific pipe dreams, hyped up failures, and pseudoscience. Look, I don't blame the men for wanting to almost delusionally change the world. Who wouldn't? The problem is, science doesn't care about what you want to be true, only what is true.
Exactly.
That's why you have to play something like a cool video game to experience an alternate version of the way the world works.
True. But with that being said, the fact that they refused to retract their statement and just move to another country to try and push things further, that it's like, humble yourself sometimes, You get proven wrong multiple times, multiple people, and they were probably feeling salty about the headlines. That headline was pretty rough, I gotta say. So they were probably mad about that, but still, sometimes you just gotta take it to the chin and move on. I'd say they should have just admitted that, they came up short, and then they probably would have got some sympathy from that and probably would have been able to recover their reputation and then focus their efforts on, I don't know, something else. But yeah, the fact that they were stubborn about it, I feel like was their ultimate downfall, You got to be able to step back and say, okay, I was wrong about that. My bad. If you can't do that, then it becomes a bigger problem for you.
Until next time. Until next time. Arya?
Did you block their number?
Yes, I blocked their numbers. I love you and only you. You know that forever.
Okay.
Now exiting the facility.
Thank you so much to the very nerdy staff at the facility for their
wow, that
direct
was
and
funny.
substantial support in the creation of this here video. If you want to join us at the facility, if you want to get nerdy with your
Okay, yeah, this is just a long outro. Okay, so that's going to be it for that one. But yeah, interesting stuff. Attempts at cold fusion. You understand, it's like, I would even say today, if someone wants to, try to figure it out, and they have the funding and they have the background and everything else, go for it. Their failure shouldn't be a reason to deter anyone else from trying to do it. But at the same time, I feel like their failure, it's more so their ego that hurt them in the end. They proclaim to be right. They wanted to be right so bad. And that's the failure. If you, as a scientist, it's like, I'm not a scientist, but even I understand, if you want to be a scientist, you have to be able to accept failure, because you get about 1 million failures before you have a success, because you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before, discover something that hasn't been done before, figure out something that hasn't been figured out before, So to be the first to do something, there's going to be a lot of trial and error. So yeah. If there is someone out there trying to figure out cold fusion, I hope you're successful. Just don't be big-headed like these guys were. I feel like that was their true downfall. Not the fact that they were wrong. Being wrong is being wrong. Just say I was wrong. It was the fact that they refused to admit they were wrong. that's what pretty much did it in for them. But anyway, that's going to do it for that one. So y'all know what to do. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what y'all thought about this one. Let me know what you'd like to see me react to next. Hit that like button before you go. Share this video with everyone you know. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. Alright? So, till next time, take care of yourselves. And I'm out of here.